Hey, hey. Hey, Val.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Gray, and this is Valerie Lewis, and we are going to briefly talk about what our collaborative um, workshop offering, whatever you want to call it, class is frequency, intention, and color. And we're guessing there may be a little bit of questions or confusion about what exactly it is.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it.
Yes. What the heck are we doing? What is frequency, intention, and color?
Yeah.
I think we should talk about each one. There's a specific reason and intention, as to why we called it, or Stephanie actually came up with the name frequency, intention, and color because it encompasses all three of those aspects. So let's talk about frequency a little bit first and why we even use frequency in this project or session. Go for it, Stephanie.
Yeah, no, I want to share because it's important to me because I've always been really into like Dr. Emoto, who has passed away, RIP, but he talks about frequency and water and consciousness of water. And that started me on my path of okay, everything is frequency, starting to really dig deep into that. And he basically showed us that you can put a word on a vessel of water, and depending on what the word is and the frequency of the word, the water molecules, when frozen, look completely different. So the ones with, like, say, love or I love you or, whatever, the good words, the supportive words, basically had these beautiful crystalline structures. And then the I hate yous and the negative anger stuff have these sort of distorted, not quite complete crystalline structures. So that's a long story. If you're interested, please go visit Dr. Emoto's site. But that started me on the path of frequency, and then realizing that color has frequency, realizing that sound has frequency. And then I began to experiment, even smell, by the way. I began to experiment with what would it be like to create in certain frequencies. And so I was experimenting with it and then created like little frequency minis for a while, and that was my thing. But then I realized why am I gatekeeping this? And then I talked to you about it, and you were just like, holy crap. And so here we are. And we've done a couple classes, and they've been amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, I love frequency and I work with energy, but I also have I guess my beginning was with Abraham Hicks and they talk about is vibration and frequency. So when I think of putting myself into a space with a frequency already present, I know that I'm going to resonate with that frequency. I just know that that's part of how nature works and how frequencies work. So when you were telling me about this frequency and creating art in this frequency, I was like, yeah, sign me up. Where do I do this? How do I do this? So yeah, super excited to incorporate that aspect of spirituality that I was really already working with, frequency, but seeing it in a different light and seeing how can I resonate with that frequency and then create from that frequency. So that's been amazing.
Yeah, there's something, and I was given intuitive hits about this for a while, but there is something that happens when we drop into the heart space, which is what creativity does. So we're recreating from this more, um, broad heart space, and then to have the frequency happening at the same time. So like in the studio or even online, we'll play a high frequency, the 963 frequency, which is considered the God frequency. And there's intention involved. So yeah, I don't want to jump ahead, but yeah, that's the frequency
Let's
bit.
go. Yeah.
That's the
let's
frequency bit.
yeah, so let's go right into intention because that's so important in everything we do, I think. Um, so the intention part of it is setting our intention before we go into the space or while we're in this space. And it's not less about what am I going to create, and it's more about what am I going to resonate with? What am I going to open myself up to? What am I going to experience when I'm in this frequency? And your intention can be kind of anything along those lines. So Stephanie, I'll let you talk a little bit more about intention.
Yeah, I mean, it's very intentional what we do when we set the space. And I think that is a big part of why not only in person, but online, people from, thousands of miles away can feel the resonance with it. We did a class a couple of weeks ago, and we had very specifically set the space with a certain scent because it resonated. It was a higher frequency scent. We were using color. We set the intention. We set intention in crystals. I mean, we go all out, whether you're here or not. And then, so what happened is we finished our class, and at the end, she mentioned that she had a smell come in. She had nothing burning, nothing, no candle going, but she was able to smell what was in what was in our space. It was amazing.
Yes, yes. That was such an incredible experience. And when I really thought about it, it all made sense because if we're setting the frequency is not specific to an area. That's why the online classes work, because we can send that frequency out. We can pulse that frequency out to you even if you don't have your speakers on, because it's energy. And so we can move that energy with the help of the divine wherever it needs to go and let it do whatever it needs to do. And so it made sense that the frequency that we set, which I love coming to the studio, because I mean, if y'all ever get a chance to visit the studio in Kansas City, do it. Because you can feel the vibration when you walk into that room. Everything is intentionally set up. Water that we use for our paint brushes, it is intentionally set. So with all of that intention, all of that frequency pulsing out, no wonder that frequency, that vibration also carried the vibration of the scent that we had and the sounds that we had and the love that we were pulsing out. It carried that vibration, carried all of that. So it made sense that even though she was hundreds of miles away and online, that she could smell the same scent that we were tying into the frequency work that we were doing. I
Yeah,
love that example. Yeah. I
so
love that experience.
incredible.
We were mind blown, y'all.
Yeah, seriously, seriously. Um,
And she specifically named the scent. She was familiar. We were using essential oil. She was familiar with essential oils, and she specifically named the scent that we were using. So it wasn't just like I smell something. It's like she knew distinctly what she was smelling in that
yeah,
moment. It was amazing.
it was incredible.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. And that's why, I mean, I love playing in this arena, and the songs that have that 963 frequency in it, that are being played as we work. It's just a whole experience. It really is. It's a whole experience. And the other thing we do is, when you sign up, you get information about how you can set your own studio if you would like, but it's not necessary. So there's always that option where you can work later by yourself with that information. Yeah. So there's that.
Absolutely. We give you all the goodies, all the goodies. So let's talk a little bit about color, because I think, I don't know, I'm a psychic, but I think some of the issue with people not understanding what we do is because we're both artists and they think that this is only strictly an art class. And we want to dispel that myth or dispel that thinking, because it's not specifically about art, which is why we didn't call it frequency, intention, and art. It's frequency, intention, and color. So we were very intentional when we chose that name. Color is all about playing with color, and I'll definitely let Stephanie talk more about this because she's more the expert on just freeballing it, is what I call with color. But the idea is bringing in also something that we can create within the space. We could just as easily have called it frequency, intention, and Play-Doh. The medium is not specific to what actually happens within these sessions. It's more about raising your vibration. It's more about connecting. It's more about opening yourself up to divinity, to the God frequency. It's all of those things. And color is just the medium that we both chose because we're artists, but you don't have to be an artist to play with color. Think back to when you were a kindergartner and you were probably the best artist ever in your kindergarten stage because you just didn't care. You just pulled all the crayons out and you went with whatever ones felt the best. And that's really important in these sessions because you are going to be resonating with the higher frequency. You are going to be drawn to certain colors. You're going to be drawn to certain movements on your paper, but it's all just play. It's all just a way for you to express and move that energy. Stephanie, what do you have to say about the color aspect of our sessions?
Well, it really is because basically we will set the stage by Valorie does a meditation, and then I encourage you to just sort of feel in your body and then just do a scribble if you don't know where to start. So there's that. Like you do not have to know where to start, and you definitely don't know how. You don't have to know how to be, to create something spectacular. You just need to play. And so we, pick the color that you're drawn to, and that's it. It doesn't have to be anything more than that. And play with it. Play, add the water to it and play with it that way. Just it's interesting what happens because when people have permission, we saw this in the live class that we did in person. When people have permission to play, things unfold that I mean, they may not seem to even make sense in the space of it, but if you allow it, you'll get the information that you need, and it changes every single time.
Absolutely, absolutely. And when you're done, you have a piece of art, a piece of color, even if it's not art to you, a piece of color all over this paper that holds the frequency that you can take back and put on your altar. You can do whatever you want. We've had students who said they were going to perform a burning ritual with it and actually burn the artwork, which we thought was beautiful. It was a moment of release, whatever they were feeling in the studio they needed to continue to release that by burning the paper. So you can do whatever you want with the art, but just the idea that that art, I'm calling it art because y'all are all artists, but
Yep.
please don't think you have to be an artist. That piece of paper that you take with you holds the vibration and the frequency of what you intended, of the 963, the God frequency. It holds all of that within that piece of paper, within the colors that you use. So I love that you get to take that piece of frequency art with you and use it however you want. I want to talk about though what happened in session. I'm going to let Stephanie tell this. And it's happened a couple of times before we were even doing frequency intention and art, but specifically in this session that we had, which was in person back in September,
September,
back in
yeah.
September. Um, Something pretty miraculous and fantastical happened within the students in that space.
Well, I
What
remember
was it,
two things
Stephanie?
specifically. I remember two things, and then you may have other things that happened as well. Um, the first one I remember is just how, like, we were seated completely opposite of one another, the two of us, and were creating and ended up creating like a being. It didn't look exactly the same, but it looked very similar. So that was one thing. And then what seemed to happen is like the person that we were creating next to, that particular energy seemed to sort of like hop on to the next page. So towards the end of my set of the session, I ended up creating this little very interesting like psychedelic frog looking being just poking its head out and just with these big eyes in the corner, like right down. And I had no idea that what it meant or anything, but it was fun. It was really fun to create. Well, I realized that the person next to me had also created a frog type situation going on. And it wasn't until he shared that it was like, he's like, I think my frog hopped onto your page. And it was just crazy.
I love that. I love the shared experience in those. What I remember most notably was at the end, which we love this portion of our sessions, we all get to share. We can share on screen what we created, or if we don't want to, we just share what we experienced during the session. And I love the shares at the end. And yes, in that in-person session, it seemed that as we went around individually and this person would share, well, this is what came up for me. And I'm giving an example. This is not what actually happened. And they might be sharing, this is what came up for me. And I was drawing this cookie and I remembered my grandma and I remembered this experience. And somebody totally across who wasn't even looking at this person's art was like, I was wondering why all of a sudden I was thinking about grandma's cookies because it was just so unrelated that we didn't know until the share at the end that we were all picking up on the energy within the room. We were having this shared experience, not just our individual experiences, but those individual experiences were contributing to the atmosphere, the frequency, and the shared experience of everyone there. It's beautiful, y'all. It's a beautiful situation, and it happens online as well. You don't have to be in person. We've had similar experiences where obviously when we're online, our work is off camera. You can't see our work. So at the end, I remember this one session, and it wasn't when we were doing specific frequency, intention, and color. It was in our older sessions that we were doing together, interstellar art. But afterwards, there were about four of us, I think, and we all showed our pictures, and all of us had some kind of representation of a vortex or a cyclone or a swirl within our picture. And so it just keeps reconfirming to me the power of energy, and that energy does not know time or space or distance, and that we can all participate and become one with the resonance of the energy or the frequency that's present.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, that feels like a good place to maybe stop, but there's so
Yeah.
much else like we could talk about. It really is an experience, right? It's an experience. And the more you talk about it, the more it's watered down because the experience is that visceral experience that you have.
Yeah.
So I would just say, come give it a try.
Yeah. And one last thing I want to mention, if you're still hesitant because the color thing and the art thing is still making you kind of nervous, you don't even have to do that. You don't even have to write. You can come and sit in the frequency and experience the frequency and the intentions that we've set for the session. And if you just want to participate in the meditation and zone out for the rest of the session while we're doodling and scribbling, that's completely fine too. You will definitely be moved. You will definitely feel the energy of the session, but we encourage you to play with color because that gets all the energy moving.
Yep. Yep. That movement and the color at the same time. Totally. All right.
All right.
Yay. I
Well,
hope
we hope we've encouraged you. Yes. Come play with us.
absolutely. We hope to see you soon.